So thanks so much for talking to us, Jason. Very much enjoyed speaking to you as part of the wider group. I have a number of questions that I'd like to follow up on following your talk. The first of these questions is, so you're currently the Associate Professor in the Department of Sociology at Durham, shortly heading towards the University of Glasgow to take up a professorship. Could you tell us about some of the real defining moments of your career?
Well, that's a great question. I would say the most defining moment, or some of the real defining moments, when I got my PhD. So I completed my PhD in 2.5 years, working full time. So like I killed myself to do it. But the reason why it was really significant, which I've said publicly now, so I might as well say it. But like I had at the time I had a brain tumor, and I had my brain tumor removed 2 weeks before I had my viva, so I didn't remember anything. So I had a stroke straight after. So passing that was really, really significant, because I'll never know how far I got across the line or not, but the most important thing is I got across the line. So like that was a really, really significant thing, because literally speaking, I just become a dad for the second time, and my job at the time was dependent upon me getting my PhD, and if I hadn't got it, I would have been made redundant. So that was really important. And then I guess there are several things, but I guess probably the biggest thing was when I got my job at Durham, because I'd been knocking on the door a long time. And I decided that if I didn't get that particular job, having had quite a lot of heartbreak, I thought I was actually going to take a job working in City Hall as a research analyst in Sadiq Khan's office. So that's what I would have done. I would have applied for that, and I think I would have had a good chance of getting it, because I had an interview. So I would have. That's where I would have gone. So I'm glad it all worked out.
So it sounds like an amazingly stressful time. 2 children, a brain tumor, a PhD, and a new job. My goodness me, that was a very busy time of your life for sure.
Yeah, no, so that
very
was
defining.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I was 2015, and then 2019 is when I had the interview in April, and and I remember getting the news, and it was just relief. It felt like I'd finally realised any potential that I may have thought I humbly had, and it was a huge relief to do that. And from that point on, that's when I really thought like it was on, in terms of like, we could make this happen. You could become a professor, and then I just went for it. From 2019 on, really went for it.
Excellent. So the second question that I've got from you is, so you've written about the difficulties that are faced by Black doctoral students pursuing a career in academia. Could you tell us more about the research that you've done in this space, and what you see as the main barriers, what the main barriers are, and what action needs to be taken? So what can we do?
That's great. So I think a lot of the research I've done is kind of really around unearthing Black and ethnic minority experiences and people from particular class backgrounds, particularly working class, within the intersect as well. And I guess my research has kind of really pointed, or has moved towards, in the last kind of 2 or 3 years, around the impact on psychological well-being. So, what's the impact of experiencing inequality across the intersection, particularly within the context of race, on kind of how people, how do they navigate these experiences, and what is the residual effect, or the kind of psychological scarring that happens as a result of kind of experiencing these discriminations. So a lot of my research has been around that, and really kind of unpacking how we develop better systems to better support people who experience racial trauma. And obviously that's gone across the intersect, and a lot of my work now is looking at the experience of looked after children as well, in terms of how looked after children navigate the education system and the lack of opportunities they have in doing that. So a lot of the time there's always this idea around how do we mobilise these different types of inequality. So you recognise the problem, but then we kind of really think about how we work with organisations to create something different. So, you know, I was really fortunate to work with the NHS in terms of developing or advising on training for therapists and counsellors in terms of being racially cognizant and racially literate, and recognising the impact of that. And as part of that work, I had to qualify. I qualified as a counsellor 2.5 years ago, so that I could have some credibility doing this work. And so that was kind of really important in terms of kind of learning about that, and more importantly, how we better inform people and support people who present mental health or mental illness at particular stages, because we know historically Black and ethnic minority people intergenerationally have been pretty poorly served by the mental health system in the UK. So we don't often work towards cognitive behavioural therapies or psychological therapies. We often move towards medication straight away for people of colour. And so I really wanted to kind of challenge that and do research that complemented people who are experts in the area and someone that had an interest who then wants to become an expert in the area.
That's excellent. So we need to think about structures. There's obviously a training piece as part of that as well, sort of training the people who have that kind of contact directly, and educating them with sort of first-hand experience, which in many cases they don't have. So my last question is, you've produced a report on with the Black Curriculum Interest Group to address the lack of Black history in the UK curriculum. How do you think the lack of Black British history being taught in schools has affected young Black children and their aspirations?
That's a really good question. I don't think it's affected their aspirations, because I think in spite of that absence, Black children continue to defy the odds and do exceptional things, passing through the educational pipeline in terms of primary, secondary, further education and into higher education, as the numbers reflect. But I think in terms of being a whole person and recognising the impact of your own histories on, empire and the contribution of, Indigenous populations and Black populations and minority ethnic populations and diasporas on these things, I think it's important, because I think the sole purpose of education is to prepare people to take their place within society. Now, the way that we do that is providing people with these skill sets, these cultures, these understandings of the world that allow us to truly be global citizens. And I think in depriving Black children and ethnic minority children of that history, you are taking away their currency intergenerationally in this world. And I think that's really, really important that we think about how we do that, but not only recognise the benefit of it for Black and ethnic minority children, recognise the benefit of it for all children, because we want all children to be global citizens and be as prepared as they can to take their place within society. And the absence of that cultural understanding, that historic understanding, that kind of resides in this historical amnesia that we reside in, where we completely obscure the kind of contribution of Black and ethnic minority people beyond subordinated and enslaved means or oppressed means that we're not preparing people to, one, change the stereotypes they have of people, and two, preparing them to actually go into a world where you have to engage with multi-ethnic, multi-diverse populations. So we're failing not only white children, not only Black children, we're failing white children as well, by not preparing them to take their place in society in terms of having this knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. History is such a powerful thing. With history, we can learn, and obviously that can educate the next generations, and so we don't make the same sorts of mistakes again. Thanks so much, Jason. That was fabulous, and I really enjoyed talking to you today.
Oh, David, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I really hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.